the worst space accident in history. Good evening. The tragic destruction of the Space Shuttle Challenger, as millions throughout the United States watched on live television, dominates this edition of Eyewitness News.
The relatives of the 7 crew members who perished in the fireball watched the drama evolve from the special NASA viewing area at Cape Canaveral.
This mission has attracted special interest because of the inclusion of a teacher in the crew. But well before the flight, a young girl had made her views on a mum in space quite clear.
Well, because I don't want to go in space, because I just want to stay around my house.
Young Caroline McAuliffe may not have been able to express her worst fears, but 1 minute and 15 seconds after liftoff, they all came true with horrifying finality.
9 nautical miles above the launch pad, the shuttle crew received the go-ahead from ground control to push the throttles fully open.
Already under enormous acceleration, it was a split second after this command, the Challenger, its huge fuel tank and the 2 booster rockets blew themselves and their 7 crew apart.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading downrange. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles. Engines throttling up 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up. 1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink.
The people of Krista McAuliffe's New Hampshire hometown weren't surprised that she was selected to be the first teacher in space.
Her family joined the celebrations when she was selected.
And tragically, they were there at Cape Canaveral to see the shuttle blasted out of the sky.
But it's likely to take some time for the death of this new local hero to hit home.
One of the things that I would like to do when I go aboard the shuttle is to bring back the wonder of it all.
Those were Krista McAuliffe's words when she was introduced to the press last July 1st as one of the 10 finalists in the Teacher in Space program. She was one of more than 11,000 teachers who'd applied for the honor. She told NASA she wanted to demystify spaceflight and to humanize the technology of the space age.
And the winner, the teacher who will be going into space, Krista McAuliffe. Where's that you?
Less than 3 weeks later, this then 36-year-old high school social studies teacher was tapped to become the first average citizen in space. It was an emotional moment.
When that shuttle goes, there might be one body. But there's going to be 10 souls that I'm taking with me. Thank you.
Her husband Steve and 9-year-old son Scott and 6-year-old daughter Carolyn received the news with understandable pride.
So Scott, how do you feel about your mother flying in space?
I feel real excited about it. Well, because I don't want to go in space, because I just want to stay around my house.
But beyond the hoopla of being an instant celebrity, McAuliffe was faced with the demands of being an astronaut in training. Despite a few joking complaints about the close quarters on the shuttle, she said it was like putting 6 people in a pup tent. She clearly relished the challenge. She also devoted a great deal of time to what were to have been 2 live televised lessons from space. The first of those, which was to have given school children around the country a glimpse of daily shuttle life, had been billed as the ultimate field trip. In an interview shortly before her tragic death, McAuliffe reflected on what she was doing. She said she hoped to inspire others to reach out and try new and different things.
If that message can get back to kids and to anybody, to go for it, then go ahead and push for something. Maybe that you don't know whether you're going to attain it. I had no idea I was ever going to be chosen, but I felt good because I reached out for that.
As well as Krista McAuliffe, 2 other crew members were making their first space flight.
But the 4 other members of the Challenger crew were NASA veterans with a wealth of experience in space.
The crew members included 3 trained pilots, a laser expert, the second woman to fly in space, a Hughes aircraft engineer, and Krista McAuliffe, the woman who was to have been the first teacher in space. Challenger's pilot was 40-year-old Michael Smith. He flew missions in Vietnam and was awarded the Navy's Distinguished Flying Cross. He said flying was a dream he had since childhood.
As far back as I can remember, all I ever wanted to do was fly.
The flight was commanded by 46-year-old Francis Dick SCOBEE. The Challenger flight was going to be his second trip aboard the space shuttle. SCOBEE was a test pilot with the Air Force. He entered the space program in 1979, and he believed Krista McAuliffe would serve as an important role model for younger Americans.
The lasting part is going to be the idea that she puts in the head of both teachers and students to expect to be in space. In other words, their future, space is part of their future. They expect to live and work there. And if she can do that, she's doing a lot for mankind.
Mission Specialist ELLISON ONIZUKA was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He was a member of the crew of the Defense Department's first super-secret shuttle flight.
I think that there's a need for, what we did on our first mission, and I fully believe that it's something that this country needed, the rest of the free world needed it.
Dr. Judy Resnick was a biomedical engineer before joining the space program in 1978. Payload specialist Gregory JARVIS was an electrical engineer who joined the program only 2 years ago. He talked about the space vehicle.
Well, it's been very satisfying because you are close to the space. You don't get to do the ultimate trip, but you're close enough to the program that you really feel like you're contributing, and you bring your friends in to see the spacecraft, and they look at it, and you say, gee, I wonder, maybe it is something special, because I spent all my life around it, so it becomes very mundane to me.
Finally, 36-year-old mission specialist Ronald McNair was a physicist. He became an astronaut in 1978 following work at the Hughes Research Laboratories. McNair planned to track Halley's Comet during the Challenger mission. McNair was the second black astronaut to fly in space.
President Reagan was informed of the disaster within seconds of the explosion which ripped Challenger apart.
He cancelled his scheduled State of the Union address, instead taking time to speak to the nation and put into words the horror everyone felt.
Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss. 19 years ago, almost to the day, we lost 3 astronauts in a terrible accident on the ground. But we've never lost an astronaut in flight. We've never had a tragedy like this. We mourn their loss as a nation together. The families of the 7, we cannot bear, as you do, the full impact of this tragedy. But we feel the loss, and we're thinking about you so very much. Your loved ones were daring and brave, and they had that special grace, that special spirit that says, give me a challenge, and I'll meet it with joy. They had a hunger to explore the universe and discover its truths. They wished to serve, and they did. They served all of us. And I want to say something to the school children of America who were watching the live coverage of the shuttle's takeoff. I know it's hard to understand, but sometimes painful things like this happen. It's all part of the process of exploration and discovery. It's all part of taking a chance and expanding man's horizons. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew was pulling us into the future, and we'll continue to follow them. I've always had great faith in and respect for our space program, and what happened today does nothing to diminish it. We'll continue our quest in space. There will be more shuttle flights and more shuttle crews, and yes, more volunteers, more civilians, more teachers in space. Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue. The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them, this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of earth.